Welcome back, Keepers of the Flame. Okay, so as I stated in the last video, we're going to run down some things that you can use on a daily basis to get yourself comfortable in your body. And some of these, you don't need to have 5 minutes. You don't need to separate yourself from wherever you are. You can just do it. Okay, so the first one on my list is looking for shapes. So say before you even put your key in the ignition when you go to work, or you're on a train, or you're in a bus, at a station, wherever the heck it is, okay? If you're in the middle of a meeting and you're stressed out, this is something that can help you with this, okay? So you can just get safe, get connected, get in the body. So the first thing is look for squares, all the squares in the room, and you can practice with my background or looking in your own, okay? Then you look for circles, triangles, stars, whatever basic shape you can think of, okay? And then you find colors, like where's the red in the room? Where's the red in the environment? Where's the red outside? Where's the purple? The green, that's easy for outdoors, right? Blues, and etc. Go to whatever color resonates with you at the moment. Okay. Orange, green, purple, yellow, teal, whatever it is. Okay. That is, instead of looking for the threat in the environment, you are shifting your focus so you can not necessarily draw out in your environment the potential for threat. It's not that you're ignoring threat, it's you're giving yourself the access to shift into looking and scanning for safety. Okay? It's not about trying to negate the bad. It's about making every viable option and pathway in your brain open. So you're not shutting off your pathway to safety and going towards the threat because it's the only thing you can see. Okay? This is going to bring you back into your body. The other thing you can do, 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Those will actually, if you are in the state of panic, will physically bring you back into your body and give you your sovereignty and autonomy back. Okay? And that prevents a lot of overload, and that'll take you out of the stress that you're feeling and the overwhelm. Okay? Then a gentle tap on the thymus gland. So you can do this. You can do this very calmly, quietly in a meeting. Just tap right here. So tapping the thymus gland will signal to the body, I have this physically autonomous nature in myself that will naturally, and you will feel it, you will instinctively, and it might take a little while if you're not used to it. So just keep tapping, keep staying present, and you'll notice your breath all of a sudden, and your body will instinctively take that deep breath in. Okay? So leaving the narratives in the past of, the idea of breath just being a physical function. Breath in Latin is spire. Spire is spirit. So you inspire and you expire. You inspire and you expire. You're taking in spirit, you're expiring spirit. Okay? That's a 6 feet motherfucker. Okay? Do with that what thou wilt, darling. Oh, it's a little chickadee. Okay, so then you can 4 seconds breathe in through the nose and then 6 seconds out. Now, the purpose of that is not just a heart-mind coherence that you're building, a bridge in your system. In through the mouth, or in through the nose, down into the lungs, and out through the mouth. So you're covering the whole system. And so the idea between the 4 in and the 6 out is there's a lot of times this kind of a residual. Think of it kind of like the back of the truck bed, and the tailgate is up. So when you're moving down the highway, when your breath is moving through, that circle of air that's in that truck bed just pushes that air over that's coming forward over. So this air keeps getting cycled, staying in the system. Okay, and that extra 2 seconds of output basically puts the tailgate back and sweeps all that extra air out. Okay, now for purposes, if you are driving on the highway, you want that tailgate up, because that cyclical pattern is going to create less resistance in the vehicle. Okay, so you're going to get better gas mileage if your tailgate is up versus when it's down. Okay, this is just how my mind works. So expelling that excess, kind of stagnant, ever-present, cyclical air in your system is actually, that's collecting some toxins in your lungs and forcing that all the way out and allowing new to come in. Okay, so this is also a health mechanism. Okay, everything is interconnected, so it's not just woo-woo spiritual pseudo stuff. It is legit healthy. Okay, so this separation of spiritual and scientific doesn't exist. It never did. We've just been given the illusion that it does. Okay, and we can talk about that in another video. But when you are coming into the realization that these physical attributes that you're giving yourself are not some woo-woo thing, it's real energy. There is a physical, biological tie to everything. So nothing is disconnected from anything. So if you can kind of let go of that disconnect narrative, not only is that energetically benefiting your own system and your own spirituality, it is also benefiting your ability to create new bonds with people outside of you. So if we can nip the disconnect in the bud and come back safely in our system, become whole sovereign beings, not perfect, not pure, just whole. Okay, drop the narrative that this has to be some sort of anything that's designed to create disconnect in yourself. So when you shame something for being impure or dirty or whatever it is, it can always be cleaned up, number one. And number two, humans create messes. I'm a messy cook. So it's part of the process. It's part of being human. It's part of existing here. And once you create a new narrative for yourself that the whole of you is to be honored and to be held in some sort of sacred semblance of existing, you begin to feel less disconnected from not only yourself but from people around you. So this whole thing is bringing up a new narrative of existing in the world. Okay, so that is the brain to heart coherence breath work. And Pam Gregory had a lovely doctor, and I cannot remember her name, but Pam Gregory did a video with this woman who wrote an incredible book. She sees how science and spirituality has been completely disconnected, and she's trying to bring them back into coherence so we can be whole human beings and not spliced into different pieces. That's the real spiritual war, is they are giving you narratives to sever yourself into bits and chunks and pieces and make you hate parts and make you overlove the other parts, and creates cognitive dissonance and all that other stuff in the system. Okay, just for a rundown. Okay, so take the whole of you with you when you're on your high vibe. So we can get into raising your frequency if I have enough time at the end of this. I'm going to make a little note. And this is inherently going to raise your frequency. This is, so they don't tell you that. High vibe is like, we don't talk about the negative stuff. We don't think about the negative stuff. That's just a narrative, blah, 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 blah. If we can't look at how we've created the mess we are now standing in, we're not going to be able to create something new in the future. Okay. So next one. Now this is for a lot of you over the age of 35 or 40, or if you have any sort of autoimmune function going on in the body. When you wake up in the morning, before you even leave the bed, stretch. Send your brain a message. Kitties are playing. The brain will then begin to receive messages from the body. Oh, hey, we're moving and shaking. Oh, hey, we're going to need some synovial fluid today. Better send it up, because after a certain age, your body stops producing that in large, increased amounts. Okay? So if you can just tell your body, hey, we're going to be moving and shaking today, and stretch your knees and your ankles and your hips and your spine and your back and your shoulders, just stretch everything out. 30 seconds this way, 30 seconds this way. Okay? And then you're not going to have so much background pain noise happening during the day, which also takes you out of your body, because when you're in pain, you want to leave your body. You don't want to be in the pain. So easing your body into a more calm, collected, and pain-free state as much as possible is going to help you, again, want to stay in your body. That's going to want to bring you back in, because you're creating that safe environment within yourself. Okay? Now, the next one is a little jig that you can do, and it's best if you can lay down and cross your legs at the ankle if you can. But then you're going to, I like to do the rubbing of the palms, like 30, they say like 30 times. You can do it for 30 seconds. Just rub the palms together. Okay, and just do that for the 30 seconds. Get nice, so they're nice and toasty warm. Okay, this is not just getting your blood flowing. This is putting energy into your hands. Okay, so this energetic field of the heart here is coming into your hands, and you're combining and exchanging all that information right here, right now. Okay, that's your whole heart vibe. I don't like to use chakras because it's very limited, and you're not supposed to really separate those colors, those energies. You're not supposed to, okay? You're supposed to let those flow where they need to go. You want the communication in between the chakras. You don't want them separated, okay? Just another way of religion, indoctrination. Again, severs. If you can sever the human, you have full control, okay? So this is about becoming whole in your body, about becoming wise about what it's doing and acknowledging it as it is, rather than trying to make it into something it's not. Okay, so little bit of cup, little bit of cup. So now at the base of your little jellyfish, if you will, right at the base. So you're going to feel the bone of your skull, the back of your skull, and cup right below it. Okay, and that's putting, and it doesn't matter which hand you use, you can switch. So receiving, feminine, is going to be the left side. The giving out and the masculine is the right side. Okay, so if you want to talk directly to the source, you put it up here, and then you're going to bring it down, and this, on this part of the body, it is the sympathetic nervous system, the fight and flight. That's the breathing. The fight and flight is the tension, right, in the chest, where you're not allowing yourself to take a full breath. That's your fight or flight mechanism working, okay? And again, we're not here demonizing it, because it served us, you know, it's kept us alive, Okay, we're not going to demonize, we're going to have a conversation. Okay, to realize what threat is, what it's not, and how we can be. Yes, my love. So existing fully in the body rather than just stepping out of it and abandoning it and allowing someone else to have control over it. This is the whole idea. Okay, so we're not here to demonize the lizard brain. We are here to acknowledge that primal instinct that has kept us alive. Hold it sacred. It's part of you. It is part of you. It's not going to go away. Okay, it's there to help you, but you have to have a consciousness about it, to have an open conversation about what's really happening. Okay, so the cupping, and just, you can do this while you're sitting in the chair. Put your feet flat on the ground. Okay, and just honor that. Okay, and you can have a conversation with it. Say, yeah, we're under a little bit of right now, but we got this. Is there anything you need from me? What do you need to tell me? And then listen. Listening is the key to self-trust. Listening to the body, because the body never lies. Okay, listen. And then you can switch your hands and put it right over your belly button to your parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest. Okay, and have a conversation with that too. And then you can also do the parasympathetic with the sympathetic conversation. Okay, so these are all different ways for you to get safe in your body, honor things that are going on inside rather than shoving them down and ignoring them and then creating more tasks for yourself to ignore. Okay, and all human beings do this. Okay, when we get to a space where we are listening to our body, it's not necessarily that we have to force one thing or another. It's just listening. Okay, so when you get new to this, when you get into this type of integrated work, it's almost like not necessarily a medically intuitive, but it's a body coherence intuition. Once you get into that conversation, that modality of existing, going, okay, I realize that I am overwhelmed right now. I need to do some serious self-care. Okay, the self-care mechanism is how you raise your frequency. I was told it was dancing and singing and blah 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 blah. That's how you connect to the source, divine, universe, whatever you want to call it. Okay, this raising the frequency has to do with self-love, not just self-care, because people confuse self-maintenance and self-care with two different things. So if you're doing things like brushing your teeth, taking a shower, that's self-maintenance. If you're doing things that are increasing your health or taking care of a health problem, that is self-maintenance. This is where you become this, the frequency part is where you become deeply in tuned and intimate with yourself, with your body, with your mechanisms that are trying to signify, hey, something's happening over here. Can we please take a moment to acknowledge that? And again, like I've said before, this is the system's way of keeping you out of your body, keeping you ignoring everything. This is a large part of suppressing the feminine aspect of life. Everybody has a feminine and masculine side. Everybody does. It doesn't matter what you're carrying between your legs. It doesn't matter. You all have a feminine and masculine side. Everybody has access to this intel. Everybody has access to the feminine side and the feminine mechanism of intuitive wisdom. Okay, and that's what we've been lacking for thousands of years. That's what's been suppressed. The intuitive wisdom that comes from just paying attention to the body. And that's what they really, really don't want you to know. And when you are meditating and you are focusing on the chakras, they are still instilling in you that this is the only place blue should exist. No, blue should exist because all over the body because you want that communication piece. You want that to be able to come into your consciousness and say, hey, I'm having a little bit of hip pain down here. This is, when you go into the doctor and they tell you you're full of shit, or they are trying to diagnose you, or whatever it is, that honesty, that communication, that blue energy needs to get down to the hip, and your hip needs to come back up and communicate, this is what's going on. Okay, this is why that energy needs to move around. Okay, and unfortunately, because we restrict it, we are not allowing it to communicate to the other parts of our body. Okay, this is why the heart space, when confined too much, feels heavy, it feels restricted. Bring it up to the mind. Bring it into the throat. Speak love into the world. Bring it into your third eye, right? Bring it down to your sacral chakra and be like, I don't shame you anymore. I love you. I want to honor you. I want to keep you healthy and sacred and respected. This is what I mean, okay? This separation narrative needs to leave so we can come together as a collective. Again, it is a systematic default that we have been trained to believe these things that are systematically, taking a scalpel to our inner world, okay? So this is how you fuse that back together. That's how you actually raise frequency, is radical, fierce compassion for yourself, radical self-love, okay? And I say radical because it is still very taboo. We tie it to this word called narcissism, and it's not that at all. Honoring yourself is not narcissism. And that's how this was created, right? This is how they demonized the self. Oh, when you're too involved with yourself, you're not blah, blah, blah. So you can kind of see how this has severely, all these systems from the past have severely damaged humanity as a whole. So this isn't just a one party thing that happened in 1930. This is a global thing that they are systematically breaking down your personal human experience, okay? And then they're gaslighting you, telling you it's not true, telling you the personal experience never matters, that if we don't get it approved by our peers, research, whatever, it's negated. This is all taking your personal power and sovereignty away, okay? This is your ability to just call it back in, okay? Bring it all back in and say, okay, what is true for me? How do I actually feel in my body? Is this resonating? Can I come to a conclusion that maybe this might or might not be in my personal best interest? So when you can bring your personal best interest into the situation, you are going to find that your personal best interest oftentimes involves everybody else's best interest. And if it doesn't, probably need to go back and say, okay, system, this is doing harm over here, or this is leaving this community out, or this is blah, 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 blah. So when we come into that pairing of the highest good of all and the highest good of ourselves, they always meet. They always meet. They will forever always meet. And this is what they really are trying to suppress, is when we can come together as a collective and say, if people are being hurt, suppressed, and whatever else, that affects us all. And it's those people who have been taken over entirely, who are screaming, no, it doesn't. We don't have any part in this. It's not our fight. It's always been our fight. It's always been our fight. And some of us have been trying to convince others of that for a very long time. But we can still come into ourselves, honor our sacred space, and become that sovereign energy, so that when we do walk into a crowd, that energy, whether you like it or not, you don't even have to talk about it. It's hanging on everybody else's energy. 6 feet, motherfucker. Okay, they don't need to fuss and fight and cause us so much harm and and atrocities if we weren't already in a state of being so powerful. This would not be necessary. It wouldn't be necessary. None of this would be necessary that's happening. None of it. If they didn't feel like they were losing their control grip. This is just about holding the line and getting really safe and confident in our own existence, and then grounding it. And saying, yeah, I'm a whole human being and I deserve to be here without being slave labor for someone who he doesn't know me, they don't know me, she doesn't know me, and obviously those people don't care. They don't care. They don't even care enough to know us. They just are projecting their narrative, which is of a legal standpoint, because if they had to admit what the hell happened, ooh chow. Yep. So that's why they can't do that. So the gaslighting comes from that narcissistic playbook, which they got from the dark triad of Abrahamics, that we have been absolved. Somebody else already paid for what we're doing right now, so we don't need to address it. Okay. This is how the Abrahamic law bleeds into man's law, and we get this narcissistic society that can't even be classified in the DSM because it's so all pervasive. It's the new normal. So, and again, we have to sit with that. We have to sit with our own traits that got developed as, people call them like fleas. You get narcissistic fleas if you're hanging out in a toxic, abusive system that gives you no real choice in how to operate yourself without being completely crushed. Okay? That's the system playing out exactly how it was designed to play out. And when you're so there's a book called The Extracellular Matrix by Matthew Wood, and he just goes through and describes exactly how the environment creates the cell. There's going to be a lot of old, dead, entitled white men going to have to really bite the bullets in the next 20 years because their way of perceiving the world was excruciatingly skewed. And it was often had to be reviewed by a propaganda board before it was allowed to be read by the public. Okay, so that being said, another self-loving thing you can do is cut down on the stress. If it involves a subscription, if it involves a password, if it involves you doing things that make you really uncomfortable, find a modality of either getting out of that system entirely, shifting some responsibilities. If you need help, you need to get safe in your body and be able to ask for help. All of these different stress mechanisms that they pour upon us can simply just, okay, and it comes from being safe in your body. It comes from the remembering who you are, that you are worthy of life. You were born here. You are inherently deserving of a place to live and food in your stomach and water that the earth already provides. This is a really difficult thing for people to understand, especially under this system that we've been for thousands of years. This is an override of a major junk DNA system. So be patient with yourself. Be patient, be kind, fiercely compassionate with yourself, okay? This is not about shaming you into, oh, I must do these things. Get safe in your body and going, you know what? I shouldn't have to be a slave to anything. I should be able to allow my beautiful, wonderful things that have been snuffed out since childhood to come up and rise, because that's my inherent fractal ecosystem purpose. That's the way I was designed to exist here, and it's just been suppressed so people can use my labor to gain control, access, and monetary gain, and whatever else it is. Okay? So just be fiercely compassionate with yourself, because you're not just dealing with your own trauma, you're dealing with all your ancestors. Okay? all your ancestors, and you need to honor their narratives and what they had to go through to get us here. And you can be really pissed off about all the shit they just tolerated. But you have to remember the environment creates the self. So when the environment is specifically designed for stress, for abuse, for a hierarchy system, if somebody knows more than me, and even though I'm seeing their instruction play out and not go well, not allowed to say anything. Okay? Cannot stress that enough. And so when we can come into a place of sovereignty and get real honest about our simply right to be here. It doesn't matter what you believe. It doesn't matter how you, grew up or the culture you came from. You were born here, and you have every right to exist here as a free, sovereign, autonomous, gorgeous being. You don't even have to bring sacred into it. You inherently deserve to be here. Okay, and there doesn't need to be an oversight of where you can and can't go, who you can and can't talk to, what systems you can and can't support. Okay? The monopoly is falling. Okay? Time to just take the board and be like, we're finished with that game. All finished. So getting onto a safety. And safety can be an illusion if you make it one. If you put it outside of yourself. Anything outside of yourself is an illusion, and we can get to that later. But right now, getting into this right here, the 3D, and bringing it into a new perspective of existing in the world, where you honor the self first, so that way you can bring your gorgeous, authentic. My girlfriend and I had a talk the other day that she was like, I think we're all autistic. And I was like, you know what, I think you're right. And her husband in the background chimed in. He's like, yeah, I think we So I was on another call with another energy worker, and I tried to say authentic, and it kept coming out authentic. So there's your new word for the day. Authentic. So just to be aware that when we try to Beesky, that's Lilith, just chiming in, giving me a little good girl. So when we can come into this safe container of existing and not shame, not degrade, not belittle, not be made to feel less than, or because these are actual superpowers, and that's why they want them in a container where they can keep track of them and call them out